And I've been in television. Before I got into television, before I graduated college, fell in love with it immediately. Did an internship, totally felt this is what I want to do for the rest of my life. We had a 1 hour show where we had the neo-Nazis on the stage with the with the opposition, and they got into a big fight, and before you knew it, where chairs were flying, where all those nose got broken. It was just crazy. And video is a great way to present yourself online and build that trust over time if you're consistent, persistent, and show up for your audience.
Welcome back to the Hustle and Grind podcast, the show where we dig into why real entrepreneurs trade comfort for conviction. This isn't about vanity metrics or overnight success. It's about the stories behind building a reputation that actually matters. I'm your host, Andrew, keynote architect, platform builder, and fellow founder in the trenches. Today, I'm sitting down with Deborah Mitchell, the Emmy-nominated TV and video marketing strategist and founder of Deborah Mitchell Media and Associates. So Debbie, thank you so much for being on the show today. I appreciate it. And I am so honored to have you here. You have an absolutely amazing resume and one that I just think is so interesting. So I know we're going to have an awesome conversation. We've already had a really good one. We're going to have an awesome conversation on the show today. So
I'm looking forward to it.
Thank you. Thank you so much. So you have a huge number of accomplishments over a 20-year career. You've won a bunch of awards. Tell us a little bit about yourself.
Okay, so I am originally from New York. I'm living in Florida now, but my career has spanned more than 20 years, 20 plus years, and I've been in television. Before I got into television, before I graduated college, fell in love with it immediately. Did an internship, totally felt this is what I want to do for the rest of my life. And I worked in live TV. So there's some kind of adrenaline rush that goes with just the immediacy of it. You could put it on, you get an immediate reaction. I knew this what I wanted to do. So long story short, I got my first job at Essence Magazine. They had a TV show, and I worked there for a few years. And then I made a transition over to daytime talk. I worked with Geraldo Rivera and the start of the talk show. So for many of you, Geraldo has been around for, oh my God, over 50 years in the business, and his talk show was notorious. So we had a great time, worked for him for 11 years. And at that time, talk shows were relatively new. So he was part of that original bunch with Oprah, Sally, Montel, Geraldo, and we had a great time. So I spent 11 years working with him, and then I went to CBS News. So I worked in morning television, morning news, which if you look at the show now, it's called CBS This Morning with Gayle King. I worked on that show, but at the time it was called The Early Show, and it was hosted by Brian Gumbel. We had a couple of different hosts during the time, but it was news. It was 2 hours of daily morning news, and it was a beast. But it was great. Again, live TV, and there's nothing like it. So that's my career in a nutshell.
Yeah. There is something about live TV where if it's a mistake, you just keep going. There's no there's no second takes. It's a really special thing. It has a special place in my heart because it's also like speaking. It's like public speaking. You're out in front of a whole bunch of people. There's no B-roll. You do what you need to do.
Exactly. And you got to be nimble. You learn how to pivot. You're thinking on your feet. There's nothing like it. So I've also been a tape producer, which, as we're talking about live has that kind of energy, but tape, you can edit your story. You can edit what you have to say. So it has a different feel to it, but live television, there's nothing like it. So You're absolutely right.
So for some of our listeners who are of a certain age bracket will know Geraldo and all of that from the 80s and 90s. Do you have a wild story? Because I guess I got to ask that.
I have a wild story. That's all it was wild stories. Well, who knows? I mean, most people know Geraldo for the broken nose story. So we had a 1 hour show where we had the neo-Nazis on the stage with the with the opposition, and they got into a big fight, and before you knew it, where chairs were flying, Geraldo's nose got broken. It was just crazy, but he made the cover of, I think it was Time magazine, and it was just unbelievable. But yeah, there are a lot of stories, and we covered the O.J. Simpson story, the trial. We owned that story. We had most of the players on our show. So we really had a good time as far as we were in the midst of big stories, and we always were able to cover them. So they were pretty amazing.
Yeah, it was just, I can't remember if Geraldo came first or Jerry Springer. I think they were close, but they were kind of in that realm.
They were in the same, they were in the same realm. But Geraldo's background, he comes from a news background. He's an award-winning news person, and then he made the transition into talk show producing, and then he went back to news. So yeah, he brought his news chops to the talk show table, which was great because I was able to learn news from him in that way and turn it into talk show producing. And there's nothing like a talk show producer. We are unique. So, yeah.
I love it, man. So cool. So, I guess the next question I want to ask you is, you've been in this industry for a while. You've been in TV. What have you seen changed? And what is some of the key pivot points you've seen inside TV itself?
So TV started changing, really. Social media changed the way everything works. TV works. I mean, when you were in television back in the day, first of all, I started before Google was around. We were working the phones. So yes, we worked the phones. We used our contacts and our Rolodexes. So I'm definitely dating myself. But there were kind of walls up as far as, you had your main three networks, you had, and the ratings were 13 point. The rating system was totally different. So, we were definitely in a world of our own, and the walls were up as far as getting access to producers, getting your story out. It was limited. You had to get to certain producers in order to get the story out. But once social media came into the mix, slowly but surely, the walls came down. You were able to get to producers a lot easier. You didn't rely on the phones to reach them. You didn't rely on emails to reach them. You could tweet them. You could absolutely get on their social media, and they started even looking for you now in a different way as a guest for their shows, which I thought is fascinating because publicists used to pitch us and we would have to go through the publicist. But now guests can contact producers directly. Producers are looking online to find new talent. So that's one of the big changes that I've seen as far as the industry. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it was very gate kept at the time. If you wanted access to TV, it was public television, or you paid, or public access, or you paid a huge amount of money and had producers and all of these things. Now, let me take out my phone and go and do my thing.
Exactly.
People don't realize that the massive change, even in the past 20 years, that have happened in the TV industry. It's really, so I wanted to ask that question to you because I know you've seen it all. You were there on the inside, but it's really different, And I think
reality TV has changed everything also. Reality TV has just the genre. I thought it was going to go away, but it's now here to stay. So the way it's done.
Yeah. But I think it democratizes us too. Instead of getting our voice out there and having to spend a lot of money on a TV channel or producing a professional show, now we have the ability to go out and get that voice out there too. So I think there's something to be said about social media. I don't know what your opinion on that is, but I think it's easier for people to get out and get their voices, right?
Absolutely. And there are a lot of great voices out here now that we can hear that would have never had a chance to get on television the traditional way. So yes, it definitely democratizes the way things are done, and everybody has a chance. And look at talents that were discovered during the lockdown. During COVID, people got online, they created their YouTube channels, and they really made a go of it, and they were discovered. So, yeah. I don't know. I love watching it. I love the different voices and the different worlds that you can get because of online media and because of that ability. So, you're running a company right now that's doing marketing. How have you been able to take all of that stuff that you learned in TV and move it over into marketing? Like, what have you been able to apply? What special there's a lot of marketing companies out there right now. What special things have you taken from the TV industry and been able to say, this is my thing. This is the new thing I came up with. What does that look like? Well, the great part is, I just mentioned the pandemic in 2020. That really opened the doors because businesses began to see that business can be done online. Mm-hmm. So that was how I pivoted, because I figured, okay, everybody's getting online, but everybody isn't good online. Like you said, you make mistakes. You get on and you think, okay, I just have to turn the camera on and just start speaking. No, there's a plan, a strategy, and an execution to putting out good video content that will can benefit your personal brand, your business, increase your revenues, help you build your audience. And like I said before, if you're able to get on the radar of producers who are looking for good experts. So you really do need to have a plan and a strategy. So as a producer, I really go to businesses and I talk to them about the fact that, just as what I said, that they should include video content and storytelling in their digital marketing, because that's another way to build trust. And this is what I've realized being an entrepreneur now. I thought it was much easier, but it's hard. People do business with people they know, like, and trust. And video is a great way to present yourself online and build that trust over time if you're consistent, persistent, and show up for your audience. So
that's one of the reasons I was really interested in talking to you, is because part of what I do when I'm talking about keynotes or podcasts is the story-based aspect to it. And you know, stuff like this if your mom's a psychologist. So your brain has cells in its entirety, goes across your entire, we only found out about this about 20 years ago, and they light up with emotion. Stories evoke emotion. And so there's a physiological change that happens in stories that makes it much easier for people to know, like, and trust us. And so that's why I wanted to talk to you guys too, because story is all about what you do in TV, you know, so it makes perfect sense. That's it, you know? Yeah.
It was a perfect fit. And so in a way, I feel as though I'm an individual's personal producer, because it does look easy to just sit down and start talking. And yeah, you can, but you really need to have some kind of guidance. You need to know what you're saying, who your audience is, what's going to resonate with your audience. So that's how I'm able to transfer my producing skills to this new business.
Cool. Now, so I think the one thing that I have seen, I don't know if you've seen this as well, is the other downside to having the ability to just be able to open your phone up and do your thing and do it very quickly is there's a lot of content out there which could be better. I'll put it that way. And for me, this is a major source of frustration, because I see people going out, they've got this awesome message, and they have a lot of trouble getting it out there or saying it right. It runs back to a joke that I say regularly. And one person's talking to another, and they say, have you ever met somebody who you knew was brilliant and there was but they couldn't communicate to save their life? And the other person looks at them and goes, have you met an engineer? And coming from a line of engineers, I can tell you, yep, that's kind of a thing where that brilliance is hard to get through. So for somebody who's like that, who, you know they have a lot of really good information in their head and they just really struggle getting it out, what are some things from the TV world that you can bring to them that'll help them to be able to structure that story so that they can influence people and to be able to help them get that brilliance out of their mind?
Well, that's a great question. And that comes up quite often with people, because one of the top reasons they'll say they don't produce content, video content, is one, they're not good on camera. They don't know what to say. They don't have the time to create content. So that you hit the nail on the head as far as one of the top reasons that people don't create video. But you can get media training, but still it is very uncomfortable I always say, to walk, talk, and be cute on camera. And
it's like walking and chewing gum.
Exactly. And then people become very obsessed with perfection, with everything being perfect. And yes, you want it to look good, but it doesn't have to be perfect. And then now with AI, you have so many tools where you don't even need to be on camera. You could do voiceless video. You could just create an avatar of yourself and read the script and put the audio behind the video. So there are so many more options now that there's no reason why you can't put video together, but there are things that you should consider. There's teleprompters that you can read into the camera. So it looks like you're reading off the top of your head, but it's actually written and you could read it and you look comfortable, and you practice beforehand. You practice a couple of times and then you feel comfortable. You get more comfortable. Some people are really naturals at it. They are natural. I won't say hams, but they're natural, just talkers. And it doesn't take anything for them to get in front of the camera and just start speaking and know what they're saying. But for others, most people, I would say, you got to work at it a little bit. So, yeah.
Yeah, I use an app called literally Teleprompter. It's the most generic app name. It's the biggest one out there. And on my phone, I can record it and go through and do my thing and just read it off. And makes it so easy to get, and AI has been a huge part of my company as well. I think it's going to absolutely change the world. I've seen AI done poorly, but I've seen it done really well. And if you know how to use it and you leverage that tool, it can help you. It raised the bar for content that's out there, because now I can create really good content very quickly. Mm-hmm. Makes it really interesting. And,
I was going to say, when I left CBS in 2010, social media was really just taking off. So Twitter, all the platforms, and I was just amazed by it. I said, wow, this is a game changer. And it was like the wild, wild west. That's how I feel now with AI. It's like, this is a whole nother level. So, yeah. Yeah, it's going to be really interesting to see what happens in a few years.
I think it has its ups and its downs. I think it's an incredibly powerful tool. I think it's been around about 2 years now ish. So ChatGPT, we generally know what it is. It's easy to use. It's kind of finding its footing, and I do think it's going to completely change the game. There's going to be companies that are not going to be around in 2 years just because of this, and everyone's now going to have to pivot to something different. So I think it's really, and like I said earlier, it's democratizing. I think that's also democratizing. Now I can create really good content. However, I tried one of those AI virtual myself, like tried to do an AI avatar. I looked like I had a disorder. It wasn't pretty. I don't know. I must not have done it right. So I don't think it's all the way there yet.
I think I'm going to work. I'm going to try it just to see what it's like. But I like the idea of being on camera, and it does take a while to sit down and record what I want to put together. But I'm going to keep at it. So
I do it all in a day. So I have ChatGPT write scripts, go through, edit them just to make sure things make sense, and then just do one day, go out, hash through a bunch of stuff, read off my teleprompter and be done. And I think it's not as hard as people think it is. Right. And I think another thing, people get really upset. I see this in keynote speakers. You probably see it on TV as well, where people are always worried about being judged, or people hate public speaking, and realizing you're up there and they're not. So you're doing something that they're not doing, and you're going to be bad the first few times. It's understanding that that's part of the process, is finding your way of anything new. Like riding a bike. You were not good at riding a bike when you first started, then you became better at it. As you keep practicing, as you keep using these tools, like using AI, recording yourself and looking at it. That was really hard for me when I first started. Actually watching myself be recorded, hearing my voice was like nails on a chalkboard at first. Now I'm very used to it. It doesn't faze me. Getting it done is, I guess, the thing. Start. Just start.
You got to do it. You just got to start and practice. And then, you'll get better at it. So that's what I spend my time really talking to people about, and also getting them focused. People come and they have a lot of ideas, and I was like, oh, wait a minute, hold on. Let's focus. What is the message? What is your message, and what is your why in creating this video content? Is it to raise brand awareness? Is it to help take your customer on the customer journey through the funnel, the sales funnel? The video can service different purposes. And what I love about the long form video, which is what you're doing with the podcast, is that once it's done, you can edit it and use it for short form video. Yep. And again, it's cost effective to have this video as your sales force as a business, because it's online and it can be found 24/7. So I just think that it is the best thing ever to have video marketing strategies as a part of your digital marketing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that was one of the reasons why I wanted to do a video podcast as well as doing an audio podcast, is because then it's very easy to break it up with shorts. I have an editor do it for me, but you can also do it there's a lot of AI platforms that will at least get you in the direction. Still got to double check AI at this point, but it'll at least give you these small little snippets that then show people what you're doing. It's much better than me talking at a camera. We're having a conversation. We're talking about what we're good at, and builds authority. Fastest way to build authority. I think the other
You're absolutely right. You really, and that's who you want to buy from. Somebody who you know, like, and trust, and you feel is an expert.
Yeah. And you know what? Honestly, I just love doing this. So the podcast came from, I was on with a mapping call for a client and friend of mine, and he has a TV network of his own. And he's like, I'm going to, go and, we're sitting there chatting. He's like, this is a podcast. Why don't you go create one? So I did. Because it's also just fun to be able to talk. I don't know. This is a good way for people to learn.
Meet people. Look at the interesting people you've had on. I was like, oh, yeah, this is great.
I get to talk with really awesome entrepreneurs who have done really cool stuff in their lives. And, there's not really I love that as a job, man. That is cool. Yeah.
Now, that's what I loved about the media, too. You meet so many great people. And you're like, and you see someone, you're like, you know what? I think I want to have you on the show.
Yep. So it was funny. I don't have anywhere near the credentials you do, but many years ago I met Jerry Springer, who's actually really a nice guy. If you got to know him, he was a good guy.
Yeah, and he said he was a very nice guy. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Very, very different than his on-screen personality.
Yeah.
Or than a show portrayed him. Yeah.
And I have to say, Geraldo is a very nice guy, too. He gets such a bad rap, but he is really very cool, very smart. And So that was really fun. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and I think that gets lost, especially, in the TV world. We see these TV personalities where they have a specific thing that they present to the rest of the world. Grant Cardone's like this. So I have met him. We have friends in common with him. And outside of his online personality, he's very different. A genuinely good guy, there to help, just it's quite different. They have these on-screen personalities, and he does that because it's part of his brand. Mm-hmm. But I think a lot of times we disconnect that between the celebrity status and who they are in real life, and that can be very different. Yeah, and often is. Yeah, I think it's sort of an interesting thing that people do. I don't know. Again, one of those things that, when your mom's a psychologist, you remember, you kind of watch how people work and stuff like that.
You're absolutely right. Oh, yeah. They're usually different. Mm-hmm.
Cool. So while we're getting towards the end of things here, I do have one question that I wanted to ask you. What do you see yourself doing in 5 years?
Oh, my gosh. What am I doing? You know what? I like the idea of work optional. I love what I do. And even when I was an intern, I would say, I would do this for free for the rest of my life. And my mother would say, you better not. So I think I will be doing some degree of teaching or producing, but more at a selective pace. I'll choose my projects and then I love to travel. So hopefully I'll be traveling and working on projects that I enjoy. But I don't see myself stopping this. Yeah.
I have a friend of mine called that lifestyle by design, and it's more.
Like
I work in a way that allows me to be able to go out and do the really cool stuff. That's something I'm working for. That's a major goal of mine too. That's where I'm going to be in 5 years, traveling around, doing my thing. I'm a snowboarder. I'm not good at it, but I love it. So I'm going to go around. I want to hit all of the major, like Whistler and all of the major U.S. places, and I want to go to Switzerland too because that's my big bucket list.
You are a cold weather person. Oh my god!
Only when I can escape it. I'm just sort of used to it. But for me, it's one of those things where I think a lot of times there's some level of grind that we have to do in the companies just to get them up and going. And there's those first couple of years where things are dicey and we're not quite sure what's going to happen. And there's a lot of risk involved and a huge amount of work involved. But as soon as you put that in, now you have the flexibility to be able to do what you want and work in a way that is best for you. And I think that's one thing that I love being about an entrepreneur versus working at companies for 20 years and retiring with a gold watch. Now I'm going to absolutely do 80% of my work in those first 2 years and do things that most people won't do and then be able to go out and do whatever I want after that.
Well, I'm going to tell you this. Yes. Being an entrepreneur is one of the hardest things I've ever done. And I've done some hard things. So it's really a beast, but I'm enjoying it. I'm constantly learning, and it's just fascinating. And I'm doing it. I'm putting all this work into what I love to do, and that's the best thing about it. I'm not answering to anyone else but myself and my clients. So
I was a terrible employee. I don't want to do that again. I was really bad.
You know what? It doesn't matter.
True story. So, but I got to ask, because I love asking this of entrepreneurs. Would you have it any other way, though? Even with all of that difficulty, would you have it any other way?
At this stage in my life, no, I really wouldn't. I would say, yeah. I wish that one thing I wish I started being an entrepreneur earlier in my career. But it's hard to work the media job and have another business, have a side hustle. But I wish I had started it. I had my name for the company a long time ago, but to actually do the work of it, I couldn't do it until I left the industry. So I think it worked out the way it's supposed to.
Awesome. Mm-hmm. Well, Deborah, thank you so much for being on the show today. I do want to also mention you do have a downloadable. So you have a free giveaway that's going to be in the show notes. You'll find the link for it. Do you want to talk a little bit about what that is?
So for anyone beginning with video, wanting to begin with videos, starting content, it'll outline equipment that you can buy. It can outline how you can write a script. It will outline just basic beginner information. And even if you're not a beginner, you can pick up some good tips in there. So I would say check it out. And you'll get some good notes.
Awesome. Debbie, thanks again for being on the show today. Really appreciate it. This was a fun conversation. So I really appreciate you being here.
Thanks so much. I'll see you later.
I'll talk to you soon.
Thanks for tuning in to the Hustle and Grind podcast, where we unpack what it really takes to build something that matters. If today's conversation hit home, do me a favor. Share it with someone who's in the trenches too. And if you're building your own brand, platform, or message and want help turning that story into serious authority, head over to theauthorityforge.com to see how we can help. Until next time, keep showing up, keep shipping, and keep chasing the work that sets you on fire. I'm Andrew, and this was the Hustle and Grind podcast.